It's divisional round time in the playoffs on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We've got through wildcard weekend with our six winners, and things are holding up on the approach to the Super Bowl. Luke Elder alongside Tom Collins, as always, and things are getting exciting, Tom.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's been exciting throughout the whole year, hasn't it? NFL is never not exciting. However, we are getting to the business end. Only a few handful of teams remain. Unfortunately, the Packers aren't one of them. And this is really where, defenses start to take control and little mistakes can determine whether a team wins or loses. It's the best part of the year. Not in terms of necessarily betting because we've got a limited number of games, but definitely from a viewing perspective.
Yeah, exactly that. We've got one or two teams who have still got quite a bit to prove, but we welcome back in Detroit, we welcome back in Kansas City, who are favourites to make the Super Bowl, and for that to be the Super Bowl matchup. Anything from the last week that surprised you, or anything that you liked going forward?
In surprising factor, probably not, purely just because the games kind of panned out as expected. We had plenty of easy winners. The Houston Texans, I suppose, surprised me a little bit insofar as how easily they beat the Chargers. But I was obviously very happy with that, thanks to the anti-post bet on the Super Bowl. I don't think that will last much longer with the Texans, to be honest, but at least they progressed through one round. The Chargers kind of proved that they were a little bit fluky throughout the regular season, I think, favoured by matchups and maybe the teams that they were playing underperforming. The Eagles won comfortably. Plenty of other teams won comfortably. Baltimore. And I suppose Washington were the proper underdog success in what was a very good game. Then we get to the Rams and a winning play of the day.
Yeah, a winning player of the day. Two winning plays of the day as well. You know what? Let's do the winning plays of the day before, because my play of the day was
Josh Allen
over on the rushing yards. And because it's a playoff winning player of the day, you have to be a bit more highbrow. Pinky up.
Pinky up. Ah, there it is. There it is.
Pinky up.
Superb. Lovely water.
It adds to it. I've gone Tom Collins this week, and I'm just drinking blood. But we thought we'd flavour it up this week on the Luke Elder end. But our good friends over at SBK, they've got a new offer going into the playoffs this week. They're offering a 25% boost on the first touchdown scorer market in the Bills-Ravens game, which that could be quite profitable. I think at a look, it's like 4-1 the market for first touchdown scorer. And also, Tom, it's a game that I would expect there are going to be a ton of touchdowns.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of playing, isn't it? First touchdown market. I know plenty of people will be looking at that, and you get some good value in there as well. It is mighty tough to find the actual winner of that market, but they've chosen a great game in the Ravens and Bills, which we'll talk about a bit later. I think SBK are still offering that £20. Bet £20, get £40 in free bets for new customers as well if you sign up. There's a link below in the description. But obviously no NFL ACCA anymore, just purely on the basis that there aren't that many games.
SBK were never offering that.
They absolutely were offering the NFL ACCA.
No, £10 you bet, and then you get £40 of free bets.
What did I say?
You said 20.
Well, they were offering that, but not through the NFL season.
The offer's even better than you said it was.
This is what you do, the sponsor read.
Yeah, T's and C's apply, max stakes apply, 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly as we go into the divisional round. What are we expecting from the Chiefs? I kind of ignorantly fully expect them to just turn around, leave behind their boring football that they've played all season, and just turn it up.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because with Patrick Mahomes and what we've seen over the last few years when they go into the playoffs, you do expect that. But is it a foregone conclusion? I mean, they are missing quite a few talented players in their roster. I think they're going to win on Saturday. But I don't know if they're going to be as good as we've seen in recent years. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't make the Super Bowl, to be honest. And obviously, I like another team in the AFC, so that would kind of back up the point. But who knows with Kansas? You never know. They could go to the playoffs and suddenly be the best team in football again and be virtually unbeatable.
Yeah, I kind of expect them to at least nearly be that anyway. But one thing just actually, before we move on to the actual game. Last week we mentioned and myself and Tom are very close friendship, and we're good friends. But we always forget each other's birthdays and never wish them. I didn't get a happy birthday from Tom after we mentioned it. No, go on, dig yourself out of this one. You had a reminder like 3 days before.
I did.
Did
I message you on your birthday?
Yeah, we spoke, yeah.
Oh, that makes it even worse. I was going to use that as my get-out clause.
The first text I received from my good friend Tom Collins was get off the TV, mate. because I got broadsided by Matt Chapman, a racing broadcaster in the UK, and he just had
Yeah.
a chat with me.
Yeah, I wasn't happy to see you in your camel coat on the TV. This is a late happy birthday. Happy birthday, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. I mean, even earlier on the broadcast, literally 10 minutes prior, Dave Orton, another questionable racing broadcaster, he said, "There's Luke Elder. It's his birthday today." And no,
I wasn't tuned in at that point. What can I say?
disgrace, absolute disgrace. Looking forward to your birthday on November the 10th. But the Houston Texans, they got by the Chargers. They're taking on the Chiefs. That's their reward. Last time we saw these two face off in the playoffs, we were treated to a decent game a few years ago. The Chiefs are 8.5-point favourites. Over under points wise is 41.5, and in the outright market, the Chiefs are 1-5. I was coming into this week, Tom, hoping that the Chiefs were going to be about 6.5, 5.5-point favourites, and I was going to bet the Chiefs on that. 8.5. It seems about right, honestly, but I'm shirking the issue on that part.
It's a really tough game to predict because we haven't seen the Chiefs starters since December the 25th. Like, it's a long time since we've seen the Chiefs' actual main players. They did rest quite a few in Week 18. And then when it comes to the Texans, they're a difficult team to assess as well because their D-line is extremely good. Their defense in general is okay. They've got a couple of really good corners, including DJ Stingley. But their D-line is especially good. They tend to show up on defense and then not perform on offense. But last week against the Chargers, they were much better and they scored 32 points. CJ Stroud didn't miss too many passes and Nico Collins looked really good. So it depends what Texans team's going to show up. It depends what Kansas City team's going to show up. I wouldn't be surprised if KC were a little bit rusty early just because of that big layoff since the last time the starters played. That being said, the Chiefs will probably pull through and win this game.
Yeah, didn't the last time these guys played in the playoffs, didn't the Texans go up like 24 points early?
I think they did, and the Chiefs came back. Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, but the Chiefs are favoured to win. Are you looking? I'll let you go first. Are you looking Chiefs side? Are you?
I'm going to look Chiefs side. Yeah, I'm kind of going with a strategy this week of playing the teams or player props in the teams that I think are going to score a lot of points or win the game. Just generally because that means more yardage and more chance of hitting the overs. I'm going to be looking at a Chiefs player that hasn't played too much this year, and that's Isaiah Pacheco. And his rushing yard line, which is only 38.5. I'm going to be taking the over here at 10 to 11. I think that's a very good line. Just 38.5 rushing yards. I mean, this is a guy that last year, prior to his injury, of course, last year was just rattling off game after game, loads of yardage. Obviously wasn't getting into the end zone much, but KC don't really use him as that kind of weapon. This season, he suffered a bad injury early on the campaign after just 2 games. He's come back and played 5 games since, and actually his workload's been very low. He's only had around an average of 9.7 carries per game, which is very, very low for an RB1. They've been using Kareem Hunt a lot. Obviously, they used him as the replacement during his injury, during that spell where he was off the field. And they've kind of been using them as a tandem at running back since Pacheco's come back. However, 3 weeks since the starters have played. That gives Pacheco 3 weeks to get over any ailments that he still may be suffering from the injury. I'm fully convinced that Isaiah Pacheco is now going to be RB1 in the playoffs. I think he's going to be getting the lion's share of carries. It wouldn't be surprising if he got maybe 75% of the carries to Kareem Hunt's 25% in this game. And if that's the case, surely he covers 38.5 rushing yards. I mean, this is a guy that could easily do it in maybe 4 or 5 carries. He's explosive, he's dynamic, he's very hard to tackle. And the best part about Pacheco, and you know this because I'm a huge fan of him, I love the fact that he will always try and grind out that extra yard. He's not this guy that if he's near the side of the field, will just duck out and take no hit and take the gain that he's currently got. He will go down, head first, shoulder down, and try and get that extra yard or two. And that is crucial with player props. As I say, I think the Chiefs will probably win this game. I think they'll run the ball more than many people will expect, just purely because of the pass rush of Houston. And that should allow Pacheco to have a good game and at least cover 38.5 yards. This is a confident play.
Yeah, it's a very low line, but you'd be hoping that Isaiah Pacheco has been kept for the playoffs as opposed to them still using Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. 2 things. Pacheco, he runs like he hates the ground. Like he's really angry and he tries to inflict as much damage into the surface as possible. Have you noticed this?
I have. I love it because it just shows his determination to really get yardage and help his team out. Can I just talk about one thing that you mentioned about the playoffs and saving Pacheco? He's had 7 playoff games in his career. Only a young career. He's still a young player. In those seven playoff games, 6 times he's covered at least 40 yards rushing. So, I mean, he's been saved for the playoffs in the past, not in the same way as this year, and he's done very well for the team. Even if he does the same this time around, I think he's going to easily cover.
Yeah, it's a very low line anyway. If you'd have said at the start of the year that Isaiah Pacheco's rushing line going into the first playoff game for the Chiefs would be 38.5, you would get a few funny looks. The second thing is, I don't know if anyone clocked it, but last week I poked my eye when I was having a drink.
Yeah.
This one, when I was linking to you, I bit my tongue.
Oh, no.
So I don't know if anyone saw that. It's not bleeding or anything. Don't get too concerned. But when it's like uncomfortable, it's like, idiot.
I'm going to definitely watch that back on the replay.
It's just as I'm about to link to you, but I was like, I'm going to look on the Texans side of things. Honestly, I don't expect much to happen for the Texans here. However, anything that's happening against the Chiefs, largely this season, actually. Start of the year, the Chiefs sucked against tight ends. They're not great against them even now. They haven't really improved. They're good in pretty much all other areas of defense, but last few weeks, they've continued to struggle against tight ends. I'm going to throw out the Broncos game because the Broncos don't have tight ends, and it was the Chiefs' secondary unit that were playing. So I'm going to forget that was even a game. Against the Steelers, Pat Fryermuth had a big game. He managed to lead Pittsburgh in receiving. I think he had about 7 catches for 60 yards. He was the main target on the team. The week prior to that, they played the Texans. Now, Dalton Schultz was included that week. He did manage to get 8 targets, 5 catches. It was the week that Tank Dell got hurt, so it was kind of a backup plan. So pinch of salt, but he was still the sort of guy that they went to when Tank Dell went down. The week prior to that, the Chiefs allowed 3 catches to Jordan Akins when the Browns were in complete disarray. And the week prior to that, Stone Smart had a fairly good game for the Chargers against the Chiefs. The line for Dalton Schultz is only 34.5 receiving yards. I think that is very, very much on the lower side. They've got rid of Deontay Johnson as well. I have no idea what's happening with Deontay Johnson. Like, he just, I don't know. No one seems to want him right now, but he's no longer there. So that's one less mouth to feed. Not that he was taking up too many bites anyway, but I do expect Dalton Schultz to have a relatively big game. He's also been included more in the passing game in recent weeks. Obviously, Tank Dell was a big part of that. He had 6 targets the week after against Baltimore. He had 3 targets in the final week against Tennessee. And then last week in the wildcard game against the Chargers, he only had 4 targets, but he turned that into 2 for 23. I think Dalton Schultz is going to return to, I say, not a huge game, but I think he'll go over 50 yards this week, and I like the line of 34.5. And Dalton Schultz is a guy that we've leaned on at times this year, Tom.
Yeah, to good effect as well. He's been a favourite for the podcast, and hopefully for your sake, he does cover his line. I think Houston are going to be throwing the ball a lot. Joe Mixon's kind of going to be stuck, I think, at the line of scrimmage. Kansas City's rush defense is very good, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get quite a few targets. And yeah, hopefully he covers for you. It all depends, in my opinion, on how well Nico Collins does out wide. He's obviously always the number one look for CJ, and if he's churning yards after yards, maybe Dalton's workload will decrease. If he's finding it difficult to create some space, then it will definitely increase more. So, yeah, 2 different ways of playing this first game on Saturday, and hopefully at least one of them wins, or maybe even both.
One thing I've noticed with our selections this week, and there's no spoilers, you're going for like the superstars.
Yeah.
I'm going for like my back, the runts. I'm going very much more left field players, while you're just taking the stars will shine in the playoffs. I'll let you take in your next star, who represents the Detroit Lions, albeit they've got about 1,000 of those stars.
Yeah, the secondary game on Saturday, Detroit Lions versus the Washington Commanders, a really good matchup and potentially one of the best of the playoffs. I say that with bated breath because there are a couple on Sunday that we're going to move on to in due course where they could be proper stellar games as well. But this game should feature a lot of points, 2 offenses that are high-powered. I'm going to be looking towards Amon-Ra St. Brown here. I think this may be a bit of a shootout, albeit I think the Lions will probably win by 2 or more scores come the end of the game. And if that is the case, then Amon-Ra is surely going to have a big game for the Lions here. His line is set to 76.5 receiving yards. So I'm going to take the over at 10 to 11. I think that's a pretty fair line. It's not the line like Isaiah Pacheco has rushing, where I'm like 38.5. Surely that's too low. This is a line where you're like, well, okay, 76.5, that's fair. How do you think the game's going to pan out? Well, I think it's going to be a shootout. Okay, Amon-Ra's got to have a big game. He is the number one for the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a big workload, whether that be running the ball or in screens or out routes. Gibbs usually gets first look, but when you're looking down the field, Amon-Ra is going to be the guy. I think they're going to move the ball quite easily on the Commanders' D. Their defensive line's good, but the secondary looked pretty poor against Tampa. Marshawn Lattimore, by the way, what happened to that guy? He was awful against Mike Evans. We were expecting Evans to basically be shut down in terms of what he usually produces compared to what he was going to produce against the Commanders. He was just having a field day against Lattimore, wasn't it? What was Lattimore doing?
I don't know, positional sense and all aspects of being a cornerback. Marshawn Lattimore doesn't look great at the moment. He's definitely not the guy that Washington traded for. That's for certain.
He said pre-game, apparently, I know I'm just veering away from Amon-Ra. We'll come back to that in a second. He said pre-game that the coaches asked him if they could move Lattimore across to cover Jalen McMillan on occasion and then, go back to Evans every now and again. And Lattimore said, no, we're going to make this one-on-one. I've got beef with Evans. Good job, Marshawn. Well done, mate. Nevertheless, the Commanders still managed to win that game. Yeah, well, they still managed to win the game, fortunately for them. Otherwise, it would have been down to Lattimore. He's potentially going to be on Amon-Ra quite often in this matchup. As I say, I don't think he's very good at the moment. And when you look at Amon-Ra's season so far, he's kind of gone under the radar a touch. I know everyone knows that Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the leading wide receivers, but he's not this guy that everyone heralds in the same kind of tier as Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. He had 115 catches for 1,263 yards and 12 touchdowns during the regular season. I mean, what a great campaign for him. The Lions obviously scored a lot of points, but still, Amon-Ra was very, very productive. And look, he's only cleared this line on four occasions during the year, which is potentially the negative, but it's playoff football now. I think Amon-Ra is going to be big for the Lions.
Yeah, I totally get that. The thing about the Lions is that when they need guys to step up, they know which guys to call upon. And Amon-Ra's been that guy multiple times this season, and also they know to keep him happy. I think the Lions might take this game fairly easily as well. That's not really a shocking thing to say because they're 9.5-point favourites. The over-under's 55.5. I wouldn't mind betting the under on that, honestly. It's not a selection for myself, but 55.5 is very, very high.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd probably veer towards the over, to be honest. I think the Lions will cover, but I'd veer towards the over. I think this could easily be a 34-20 24 kind of game, with 10 points in it, with the Lions covering their spread and also hitting the over. But it should be a good matchup no matter what.
Did you say 24-30?
24-34. I have maths, don't you worry.
Damn it. When you said 24-30, I was like, oh, bad maths. But I don't know. I don't love how Jaden Daniels looked last week. I thought he looked like a rookie in a playoff game. Maybe he'll settle into things and he'll be better this week. But the Lions defense, let's not forget, against Minnesota in the final week of the season, they looked good. They had Alex Anzalone back and suddenly they looked like a much better team all round. One thing that has been constant with the Lions is that they've been a very hard team to run on. And my play in this game is going to be Austin Eckler over 22.5 receiving yards. Now, Brian Robinson straight up sucked last week. He had 10 carries, 16 yards, averaging 1.6 yards per carry. See? I got maths as well. But Austin Eckler came in and he had 8 carries himself for 27. He looked better on the ground. He cut a big run. He cut a run of 12 yards. However, he still got 3 catches for 26 yards. Now, he's not long, Austin Eckler, been back from a concussion. He did play in week 18, albeit limited snaps, and he wasn't out there too much when they took on Dallas. But he managed to get 4 targets for 3 catches and 26 yards. I think he'll be more included in this game, especially if Washington fall behind, which I kind of anticipate happening. If they fall behind 2 scores, even better. Austin Eckler will become the main guy. I think Jaden Daniels will be looking to go to him quite a bit. He has overused him at points this year as well. Go back to week 11 when they took on Philadelphia. He had 9 targets for 8 catches and 89 yards. So they do overuse him from time to time. I think this could be one of those games. Whether he finds the end zone, I'm not really sure. I don't hate it if you want to play that side of things, but this is very much a play where I anticipate Washington to be playing from behind, and I would anticipate Austin Eckler having a decent enough game throughout that. And say Detroit, you can use receiving backs against them as well. It's not a case of running backs are just completely null and void. They have had some success against the Lions so far this season. Generally, they're trying to get to the quarterback and they're trying to get the quarterback to get the ball out as quick as possible. They might try and change that against Jaden Daniels in that they don't want to let him run. That might change things around a little bit, but I fully expect Austin Eckler to have a big game. And he surprised me this year, Tom, Austin Eckler. He didn't look great for the Chargers last year, and in his flashes this season, again, he's not been an out-and-out workhorse RB1, but he's looked okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's got that many years left in him, to be honest, due to injuries and his current age. But yeah, he's definitely shown more speed this year. For the Chargers last year, it did look like he was running in treacle for a fair bit.
It did. But the Commanders came in, they gave him a chance, and on the whole, he's done okay for the Commanders. 2 more games left in divisional round weekend.
Yeah,
what do they call it?
Just a divisional round, I think.
Weekend. I mean, it is a weekend. Let's go on to Sunday, where we've got the Rams taking on the Eagles. The Eagles are 6-point favourites, over under 43.5. This was your play of the day last week with the Rams. I'm going to be honest with you. If there's an upset this week, I think it'll be the Rams.
I would not be surprised either. I've got written down in my notes that this could be the best viewing spectacle this week. Obviously, we've got the biggest game to come that we're yet to talk about on Sunday night, but I think this game could be very tense throughout. The Rams are underrated. As you say, last week was my play of the day against the Vikings. Many people expected the Vikings to win that game. I just like the Rams, not necessarily because the Vikings were disappointing against the Lions, but more that the Rams were just being underrated in terms of how good they were. Matt Stafford is exceptionally good when it comes to important playoff games. Now, he was with the Lions for a long period, and obviously the Lions at that time weren't very good, so he didn't have many playoff appearances. But there are very few quarterbacks I'd want on my side over Matt Stafford when it comes to knockout games. And that really just puts the Rams in with a chance, whoever they face. And yes, they face the Eagles, who are a good team, but they weren't great against the Packers last week. I know they covered the spread, which was great for the podcast, poor for me, from a Packers fan perspective. But they didn't really shine, did they? The Packers just beat themselves up with 4 turnovers. There could easily be a bit of an upset here, but I'm going to be sticking with an Eagles player for my player prop bet.
Go on. Who is your... Well, I say, we know you're going for superstars, so why do you like AJ Brown? Why do you like Penny Gainwell?
Well, hey, look, if it's superstars, you surely should be talking about Saquon Barkley for the Eagles, because that man is the superstar.
No, you told me at the start of the year that Saquon Barkley sucked.
He did for the Giants. He was pants.
Everyone sucks for the Giants.
Yeah, but mate, this is a guy who's proven to probably be one of the best players in the league. And for the Giants, he couldn't even... I know the O-line was shocking, but he wasn't anywhere near as good. I don't know whether he was still feeling that injury last season, but regardless of that, before I get into the player prop quickly, that run from Barkley and the last play of the game for the Eagles last week against the Packers, I was extremely happy because I had a little side bet on Barkley covering a certain amount of yards. But I went on social media directly after it, and there were people that were fuming towards Saquon. If you missed it, by the way, the Eagles were up big, and instead of taking a knee on the final play of the game, they were in victory formation. They allowed Barkley to carry the ball. He went for 17 yards, but he could have run for a huge touchdown, and he decided to go down. I don't think Barkley is in favour right now with some of the punters in the US. They are not happy with him.
It is stupid, though. It is that you didn't need to go down. Just go score the touchdown. Like players are getting well sensitive towards this. Do you remember the Isaac Guerrero one earlier on in the year where he's like, I think it was against Seattle actually. He cut like a 60-yard run, and it's like, wow, the rookie's gone. This is amazing. He's gone down. He's got like there's a guy on the sideline go down. Next play, Kyle Juszczyk just ran the ball in, or he got a touchdown anyway. It's just like, mate, you're gonna win the game. You're like 2 scores up. This would be 3 scores. Just go score.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially at that point of the game when there's only like a handful of seconds left, 14 seconds or whatever there was. And also, one other thing on that, Barkley could have gained another 40 yards and then gone down if he wanted to. But he decided not to. He decided to just take 17. So people who took the big spread, like 125 plus or whatever it was, 150 plus, they didn't cash in when Barkley could have easily just gone 30 more yards and done exactly the same thing. But anyway, I think Saquon's going to have a big game against the Rams. And I think Philadelphia will generally just get quite a lot of yards, maybe 400 total team yards. If they're going to do that, they're going to be going towards AJ Brown. Against the Packers, they use Saquon Barkley, they use Jalen Hurts' legs, they use Dallas Goedert, who produced one of the biggest stiff arms on Valentine I've ever seen. And they used Devontae Smith in the fourth quarter. AJ Brown had 1 catch for 10 yards. That was it. And that's not because our corners are exceptional. Our corners are okay. It's just they didn't really use them as part of the team plan. That won't happen this week. Brown has size advantage over the two Rams corners, Durant and Williams, and I expect him to use that. The Eagles are going to be going towards AJ. They don't want him to become disillusioned with the team right now. And Brown has had 84 or more yards in 62% of his games this year. There's a bit of maths for you. He generally has exceptional games. The Eagles use him to great effect, and he's been phenomenal. Put a line through that game last week for AJ. And if you're just talking about what we've seen so far this season, he has had 5 or more receptions in 77% of his games. Over 4.5 receptions in this game on Sunday night is priced at 5 to 6. That is around a 55% chance. Why is it not a 75% chance? Surely this is a great price on a bet where AJ should easily cover. Give me AJ Brown over 4.5 receptions at 10 to 11 for the Eagles. I expect him to have a big game.
Yeah, I fully get that. Look, the Rams defense, it looked good against the Vikings, but they would just get into Sam Darnold a lot. The good thing for the Vikings is you don't have to pay Sam Darnold a lot of money now. You don't even have to keep him if you don't want to, and another team will come in and probably try and pick him up. But JJ McCarthy time is coming. The Rams did look good. Two things. Do you remember a few weeks ago when the Eagles were winning like everything? It's mainly because of Saquon Barkley, and AJ Brown just threw a massive tantrum about it.
Yeah, but did you see last week when he was on the sidelines? He was reading a book that was something to do with inspiration or something to do with greatness. I think he's channeling his inner Zen.
Was it? They do not need me to be good. Oh, good.
Yeah. Not every week you can be the man.
Yeah.
That's what he's reading.
Thanks, book. And the second one, Dallas Goedert. Did you see his quote after the stiff arm to Valentine?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, stiff armed him. Then it was probably on me. I slowed down and just wanted to do it again. Like, mate, that's a grown man. He's got a family. Leave him alone.
Yeah, horrible, horrible man.
Let's do it again with Dallas Goedert. He's my play this week for the Eagles. I just think this is going to be another tight end game. I said it earlier on when I was talking about Dalton Schultz. Dallas Goedert's line is only 33.5 receiving yards. Now, he was very involved last week. Obviously, he managed to get his touchdown. Dallas Goedert always seems to be involved when it comes to the playoffs. He's a big play guy. I mean, last year, the Eagles straight up sucked when they got into the back end of the season, / into the playoffs, and they were beaten by the Buccaneers. He still had 6 targets and 4 catches and a touchdown last year. He had literally the exact same stat line, just for more yards against Green Bay this year. But he's being looked at more and more. Week 18, I know it was Tanner McKee behind or under center. He still had 6 targets from McKee. He did miss 4 games before that. But generally, if you've got Dallas Goedert, you're good for 4 or 5 targets at the very least. And generally, he would catch them all. The Rams are not a very good team against tight ends. You go back through. I mean, yes, I know the Vikings were absolutely terrible last week. Still, TJ Hawkinson was their main receiver, 5 for 64 and a touchdown. Johnny Munt had a couple of catches as well, and Josh Oliver managed a catch. So against a tight end, they weren't that productive on defense. Again, I know that we're talking about backups, but the scheme at least allowed Seattle's tight ends to have a decent game. AJ Barner got a touchdown in week 17. Noah Fant got a touchdown in week 17 as well. You go back even further than that against the Cardinals. It was a 13-6 game in week 16. Trey McBride, 12 catches for 123 and a touchdown. You could go back further and further. George Kittle had big games against the Rams. There were loads of them. I think Dallas Goedert is the absolute next of those. As I say, he's back to playing a huge amount of snaps. He was a 92% snap share last week. I know there are plenty of mouths to fill, but I do think Dallas Goedert has another big week, and this is a guy that you're trying to ship in fantasy, Tom. So you should be cheering this on with me.
Yeah, I was trying to ship him off to you last week, and you were
I don't
saying
want
no.
him. Yeah, I don't want him. Like, we're not playing now.
Unbelievable scenes. And can I also just say, it's not mouths to fill. That's something completely different. Mouths to feed, mate. Come on.
What's a mouth to fill?
No comment. Next.
It's just weird because I don't really know what you're talking about.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's Dallas Goedert. We've got one more game to look forward to this week. Just wanted to... We talk about trades in our Dynasty league. I have now managed to get 3 first-round picks in the next 2 seasons, which I'm delighted with. But I was looking back on a couple of trades in the in the last few weeks that I've managed to accept. I need to find them because you've sent me a few for draft picks because you've realised you've got absolutely zero draft picks whatsoever. But
Mm.
I managed to ship off, I think it was Chase Brown. Okay, right. So it was this. I gave away Chase Brown in the playoffs for Chris Godwin, a second, a second this year, a first this year, and also a second. How do you feel about that one now going forward with Chase Brown?
Yeah, you've definitely won that. Chase Brown's a good running back, but no running back is worth that amount apart from the elites.
No, I agree. That was actually to your brother.
It
And
was.
the other one, I don't know how you feel about this one. I gave away Devon Achan, George Pickens, and Chris Olave. So three big names. And I got Amari Cooper, a first, which is the 101 for this year, another first, and 2 seconds as well for this year and next year.
That one, that
I've had mixed reviews of that one.
I think you won it purely because I don't think Chris Olave is going to play much more football. However, you did get Amari Cooper, who, I mean, sucked. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut in the offseason. So, it's a win-win for both teams, I think. He gained valuable experienced players. You gained the 101 this year, plus others.
Yeah, comment down below who won that one. As we move on to the final game of the week. Oh boy, it's a big one as well. The Ravens taking on the Bills. The Ravens on the road are 1 point favourites as we speak. 51.5 is the over/under. This is what playoff football is all about. Yes, I know these two met in the regular season, and it was a good game. It was a fun game to look forward to. But in this, it just feels so much better.
Do not miss this game. If you are an American football fan, even if you're not an American football fan and you happen just to be watching this podcast, do not miss this game. This is going to be brilliant. Two of the best teams in the NFL, the two best NFL quarterbacks this season, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. This is going to be fireworks. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be super high scoring, but there are going to be numerous big plays, whether that be defense or offense. And this could dictate who wins the AFC Championship, I think. I would bet both of these two teams against the Chiefs right now. Obviously, when we come to next week, if the Chiefs put up a big display against Houston, that could change. But on what we've seen so far, I think these are the two strongest teams in the AFC. And I'm ready for a barnstormer here.
Yeah, we're expecting loads of points in this contest. And don't forget as well, SBK, they've got the 25% bonus if you manage to land the first touchdown scorer in the game. Just quickly, who do you reckon will be first touchdown scorer? Not a selection, but...
I would probably look towards Josh Allen for the Bills, and I'd probably look towards Mark Andrews for the Ravens. However, that I looked towards both of those last week with player props, and neither of them landed. So maybe that's just a biased opinion towards two players that I feel like owe me. But I feel like they'll both be very dangerous in this matchup. Josh is going to use his legs more, I think, against this Ravens D, and Mark Andrews, we know in the playoffs generally, is usually relied upon by the Ravens. So there'd be the two ways I'd play it, around 13-2 and 9-1, I think.
Yeah, and as we know, quarterbacks do like to run the ball in the playoffs. We found that out last week. I would look the way of Derrick Henry. I know he's favourite, but I just feel like it's going to be... If the Ravens get the ball first, they're just going to run the ball as much as they can. The Bills have been better against the run in the latter part of the season. I think I put Derrick Henry up as an over on the rushing yard side of things earlier on in the year. And this was the game where first play of the game, he cut like a 75-yard touchdown and it was pretty much cash straight away. I'm not going to do that this week, but you know what? I'm going to go first.
Go on.
I'm going to take over because if you would like to bet this guy to score the first touchdown of the game, it's about 33-1. You're talking about that. And I'm going to take him anytime touchdown scorer, but I'm talking about Ty Johnson, who is a guy who's getting more and more traction. If you didn't hear the Josh Allen quotes, Josh Allen said about Ty Johnson this week that he is the best third down back in the game. I feel like that's just him talking about his mate and dapping him up. But to be fair to Ty Johnson, he's been good. He's been good all season as well. And he's stepped in when there have been injuries or when there have been vacancies and he's needed to play. He's been a good team player. But he's also had sort of times where he's really shone. Now, he had 5 catches in week 15 against Detroit. He managed 114 yards on those. He managed 55 receiving yards the week prior to that. He hasn't been used loads in the last few weeks. That's the only concern. But he had 2 catches in week 18 against New England. He had 2 catches, importantly, last week. Now, initially, I was wanting to take Ty Johnson overs on the receiving yards. No one's offering that. And I don't really want to go James Cook because they don't use James Cook. He didn't have a target last week. And this is the sort of game where the Bills are going to have to use their running backs in the passing game. Would not shock me if Ty Johnson suddenly gets a ton more snaps, especially if they fall behind early on. Ty Johnson will have to be used. He's going to be one of the key guys for them. He's 11-2 to score a touchdown at any time. As I say, he found the end zone last week against Denver and against Baltimore. Baltimore are not fantastic against receiving backs. They're good in almost every other facet of their defense. They're good against wide receivers. They're good against running backs on the ground. But Chase Brown had a massive game against them early in the year. I think he had like 9 catches for nearly 100 yards or so. The Steelers, they've played twice now in the last 4 weeks. Obviously, that's an Arthur Smith run offense, and he likes to use running backs a lot. But both Jalen Warren and Najee Harris were used against the Ravens to some effect. It wouldn't shock me if Ty Johnson had a big game. Look, you're not going to find a line at the moment anyway. If anyone wants to add that, please do, because I don't think his line will be too high. I would bet the overs on that. But at 11-2, Tom, I think that's the biggest selection we've had in the regular season and playoffs.
I think it is, yeah, the biggest price, definitely. I'll be rooting for him, and for you, of course. It would probably put you ahead of me in the P&L. We're very close now after last week, so I will have half an eye on that. But I'll be rooting for you. The only problem I have with Ty Johnson, and this is kind of, it's taken into perspective with the price. Obviously, you're getting a good risk-free reward factor at 11-2. He only ever plays third down, so you're not going to see him on the field much. You do just need them to call his number on one play.
Okay, respect it. Know exactly where you're coming from. What percentage of snaps did Ty Johnson play last week?
Well, of course, he plays every third down, and I don't know how many. I can't remember how many first and second downs the Bills converted into first. So let's go for 40.
45. But that's a big rise in what we saw. He hadn't hit 45% since week 11 against the Chiefs. Other than that, it was 28, 35, 30, 39, and 30. 45%. I'm okay with that. It was higher than I was expecting. So yeah, Ty Johnson, give me an 11-2 about him to score anytime.
Yeah, very interesting. And that's a much bigger price than my pick. But mine is going to be a lot simpler. And it's just going to be Baltimore Ravens money line to beat the Bills. I want the Ravens just to win this game. Very simple. I know plenty of people have been asking for just normal team selections as well, because we do love a player prop on this podcast. But yeah, this is a nice simple one. I fully respect the Buffalo Bills. It's got nothing to do with them. This isn't like a Rams v Vikings situation last week where I didn't think the Vikings were as good as billed, and I thought the Rams were better than people expected. This one is more that I just love the Ravens. I've loved them all year. I love them preseason. I love them during the season. I love them even more now in the playoffs. I think they are the best team in the AFC. And yes, they're going on the road. They're going up to Buffalo, and that's a big test. But I just think they're a better team than the Bills. The one reason for that, and the main overarching reason, is that the Bills rely so much on Josh Allen. Like every kind of aspect of the game, throwing the ball. Allen is superior to the majority of players in the league. He's able to find these wide receivers who just aren't very good in terms of playoff caliber receivers. Curtis Samuel had a big week last week. Curtis Samuel, where was he in the season? Keon Coleman's an okay receiver, but he can't get enough space. He can't get open against corners 9 times out of 10, so he struggles. Obviously, Khalil Shakir is very, very good, and he's the one kind of underlying factor here. But in the passing game, everything relies on Josh Allen. In the running game, okay, yes, James Cook's had a very good year, but on a crucial third downs, they're going to call the number for Allen. And if 15 gets over the line and gets first down, then great. And if he doesn't, well, they're just going to do it again next time. Everything relies on Josh. If he doesn't have a great game against the Baltimore Ravens, they will punish him. The Ravens are too good to not beat this team if Allen isn't at 100%. I love the offense for the Ravens. They've got Lamar Jackson, who I think should be MVP this year. They've got the best running back, maybe, in terms of guaranteed yardage in Derrick Henry. He can do it all in between the tackles. They have a wide receiver in Zay Flowers, who I think is exceptional and underrated and is coming back off an injury, if hopefully he plays. They've got 2 tight ends who were very good last week, including Isaiah Likely. And their defense has really improved in the latter stages of the year. Kyle Hamilton especially is the guy that I love. So I think the Ravens win this game, and that's going to be the bet. But I'm also going to say I think they make it to the Super Bowl, regardless of who wins the Kansas City Chiefs and Texans game too.
I'm going to correct you on one thing because you made me look stupid earlier.
Go on.
You called Josh Allen 15.
What number is he?
17.
Oh, he's 17.
You know that Mahomes guy, he's 15.
Yeah, I do know that.
Sorry,
Josh.
Look at his face. He hates that one.
Yeah, I did hate that. I thought it was 15. That's poor from me.
No, 17.
All
Disgraceful.
right. Sorry, Josh. I know you watch. I know you watch the podcast. I'll get it
Big
right next
fan.
time.
Big fan is Josh Allen of the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. He's yet to tweet about it, but if you could do that, Josh, that would be great. And if you guys, if you're watching this for the first time, if you could subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic as we go into our selections. Subscribe, leave a comment down below, and leave a like on this video. That would help massively. Tom, I'll let you go first with your 4 selections, and if you could label the play of the day, that would just be great.
Yeah, I'm going to do it first as well. I'm sorry, Editor Joe. I know you like us putting the players of the day in at the end, but I'm doing it first because I'm going to do them in chronological order. We have 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, so I'll keep it in that kind of format. The play of the day is pick number 1 in the first game on Saturday, and it's Isaiah Pacheco over 38.5 rushing yards. That's a 10-11. Love that pick. He's the banker for me this weekend. Play number 2 in the Lions-Commanders game. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown over 76.5 receiving yards, again at 10-11. Then we move into Sunday, and I'll take A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles over 4.5 receptions at 5-6. Hopefully that line doesn't move. Hopefully the price doesn't get much shorter. I would say that's almost home and host, that one. It won't be a great watch because you're just waiting for catches, but I think that's pretty much a good thing. And finally, in the biggest game, the best game, the Bills v Ravens, give me Ravens money line at 20-23. Bit strange odds, but that's the price, and hopefully we can go 4 from 4.
I'm not going to put my play of the day first, but I am going to do it in chronological order. I'm going to do it in a second. Dalton Schultz over 34.5 receiving yards is my first selection. I think Dalton Schultz will have an okay game against the Chiefs, much like he had a few weeks ago, maybe not even that big, but he did do very well against the Chiefs a few weeks back. Play of the day is going to be Austin Eckler, over 22.5 receiving yards. That's 10-11. I can see Austin Eckler having a big game, especially if Washington have to play from behind, which I'm expecting them to do. Dallas Goedert had a big game last week. We're hoping for similar this week, over 33.5 receiving yards for Dallas Goedert. Again, he's 10-11, but as I say, the Rams are not good against tight ends. And we're going to try and end with a bang for the divisional round. Ty Johnson, anytime touchdown at 11-2. He'll be involved in the receiving game for the Bills. And look, touch wood, it doesn't happen. But if James Cook has to miss time for any reason, then Ty Johnson will be one of the next guys up. So Ty Johnson, anytime touchdown at 11-2. But the play of the day is Austin Eckler over 22.5 receiving yards. And as an added caveat, if Tom can name both of my dogs and their names, then that will ensure that all 8 of our selections win.
I can't. I can only remember one of them.
Go on.
Is it Pippa?
No, not even right.
Pip?
There we go, Pip.
Yeah, same thing.
Would it help if you saw the dog?
I can't remember. Is it something that ends in Ollie?
Yeah. Just add a letter.
Yeah, but I can't remember.
Add one letter to the front of it.
Yeah, what? P H?
No.
L?
No. Lolly. What a rubbish name for a dog.
I don't know. Dolly.
Dolly.
There you go.
Well, we're going 7 out of 8. That's one of your ones that's going down as well. That's not mine. But thank you guys for watching the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. She's coming now. She's heard her name multiple times. But thank you for watching the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We'll be back next week, and we're back for the Super Bowl as well. We might take a week off for the Pro Bowl, but we are going to be here throughout the entirety of the off season as well. So we're here for the entirety of the year. Myself, Luke Elder, alongside Tom Collins. We'll speak to you next week. Until that point, stay safe, look after other.